Vivian Cole had always been the type of woman who kept her life in order. At 61, she was retired from architecture, lived alone in a quiet neighborhood, and carried herself with dignity wherever she went. She wasn't rich beyond measure, but she had worked hard and saved wisely. For her, security meant everything. That's why she only gave her son, Adrian, and his wife, Sienna, access to one of her credit cards, strictly for emergencies. She thought she was doing the right thing, offering a little extra safety for them. On a Saturday afternoon, Vivian walked through the mall with a small list in hand. Some groceries, new shoes, and a birthday card for a neighbor. She never cared for luxury stores. She preferred simple, comfortable things. But as she passed by the glass windows of a designer boutique, something caught her eye. It was Sienna. Vivian froze. Her daughter-in-law walked across the store like a model stepping out of a magazine. Sienna wore heels too tall for comfort, her hair perfectly styled, her lips painted a bold shade of red. But what made Vivian's heart skip wasn't Sienna's look. It was the mountain of shopping bags she carried. Chanel, Gucci, Prada. More brands Vivian only heard of but never bought for herself. At first, Vivian thought maybe Sienna had saved up. Maybe she had been working extra shifts. But then, like a whisper of fear, the thought crossed her mind. What if she's using the card? Vivian pulled out her phone and tapped into her bank app. Her eyes widened as the numbers appeared. In just the past 2 hours, over $40,000 in charges had been made. Vivian's hand trembled. $40,000? She whispered under her breath. In 2 hours? Her chest tightened. That card was supposed to be for emergencies. Hospital bills, car trouble, anything urgent. But handbags? Dresses? Shoes? Her heart told her to storm into the store and demand answers. To grab those bags from Sienna's hands and tell her off right there. But her head, sharp and disciplined from years of building and designing, whispered something else. Wait. Don't just react. Get the whole picture. Vivian stepped back and began to follow, moving carefully so Sienna wouldn't notice. From one boutique to the next, she watched her daughter-in-law hand over the card, smile at the clerks, and laugh as if the money were endless. Vivian's stomach churned with every swipe of the card. But she didn't stop. Instead, she quietly took out her phone and snapped pictures of receipts left on counters, the times on her banking app matching each one. She wanted proof, undeniable proof. With every step, the betrayal sank deeper. This wasn't just about money, it was about trust. Vivian had raised Adrian alone after her husband passed. She had fought to give him everything he needed. And when Adrian married Sienna, she welcomed her with open arms, believing she would treat the family with respect. But here she was, treating Vivian's hard-earned money like play cash. Vivian walked past another store window and caught her own reflection. Her lips pressed tightly, her eyes tired but determined. She knew she couldn't allow this to go on. If she confronted Sienna in anger, it would turn into a shouting match. Sienna was clever with words, always quick to twist things. No, this had to end in a way that no excuse could cover. And so, Vivian decided to wait for the right moment. The moment when Sienna felt untouchable, when she believed no one was watching, when her pride was at its highest. That was when Vivian would step in. The chase continued. Sienna bought jewelry, perfume, and more clothes. She flirted with salesmen, asked for the most expensive items, and carried herself like she was royalty. Each time she handed over the card, Vivian felt the anger rise again, but she swallowed it down. Finally, after nearly 2 hours of shadowing, Vivian saw her chance. Sienna walked into another boutique, set her mountain of bags down near the counter, and pulled out Vivian's card once again. She chatted with the cashier as they prepared another set of items for her, smiling with the kind of confidence that came from believing no one could stop her. Vivian moved closer, her heels clicking softly against the floor. She stood near the counter, her presence quiet but powerful. Her hands didn't shake anymore. Her breathing slowed. She knew exactly what she was going to say. Sienna handed over the card. The cashier took it, sliding it into the machine. And just as the receipt was about to print, Vivian stepped forward and spoke. "Cancel that purchase," she said firmly. The cashier froze and looked up. Sienna turned around slowly, confusion flickering in her eyes. But the second she saw Vivian standing there, calm and unwavering, her face went pale. The bags slipped from her arms, crashing to the floor. Vivian didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her eyes said everything, "I know. And this ends now." The store went silent. Clerks froze, customers turned their heads, and Sienna's confidence drained like water slipping through a crack. Her lips trembled, her eyes darted around, but Vivian stood steady, her voice calm and firm. "That card is mine," Vivian repeated, her tone leaving no space for excuses. "Cancel the transaction." The cashier looked between them, confused, holding the card in midair. Ma'am?" Vivian didn't look away from Sienna. "You heard me. Cancel it. Now." For a moment, Sienna didn't move. Then, slowly, she bent down to gather the shopping bags she had dropped. Her fingers shook, and the colorful luxury bags seemed heavier now, as if filled with stones instead of clothes. "Vivian," she whispered, trying to force a smile. "This is all just a misunderstanding. I was going to surprise Adrian. He's been working so hard and—" "Don't lie to me," Vivian cut her off, her eyes sharp as glass. $40,000. In 2 hours. Was that your idea of a surprise? The cashier, wide-eyed, carefully placed the card back on the counter. Other customers whispered in the background, their voices carrying like small waves. Some pulled out their phones, pretending to scroll but really recording. Sienna's cheeks flushed. "It's not what you think." Vivian leaned in, her words low but cutting. "It's exactly what I think. You used me. You stole from me." The manager appeared from the back, drawn by the commotion. He was tall, in a neat suit, and looked both nervous and curious. "Is there a problem here?" Vivian straightened her shoulders. "Yes. This woman has been using my credit card without permission. I want you to cancel every purchase she made here today." Sienna gasped, her voice desperate. "No. Please, Vivian, don't embarrass me like this. Let's talk privately, please." "Embarrass you?" Vivian's voice cracked slightly, but she didn't falter. "You embarrassed yourself the moment you thought you could treat me like a fool." The manager frowned, looking at the trembling Sienna. "Do you have identification for this card?" he asked Vivian. Vivian calmly reached into her purse and pulled out her ID. The names matched. The staff glanced at Sienna, whose face had gone ghostly pale. "Security," the manager called softly, and within minutes, 2 uniformed guards appeared. Sienna panicked. "Wait, this is just a mistake. Adrian knows. He knows about this. Please, just let me call him." Vivian's jaw tightened. "Yes, call Adrian. Right now." Her phone was already in her hand. With steady fingers, she dialed her son's number and pressed speakerphone. The line rang, and after a few seconds, Adrian's voice came through, cheerful at first. "Mom, everything okay?" Vivian didn't answer. She turned the phone toward Sienna. "Go ahead. Tell him." Sienna's throat bobbed as she swallowed. "Adrian, it's me. I ran into your mom at the mall. She thinks I spent money I shouldn't have." Adrian's tone shifted. "Sienna, what is she talking about?" Vivian spoke firmly into the phone. "Adrian, check your messages. I've sent you screenshots of every charge made today. $40,000. All luxury items. All on my card." There was silence on the line. Then a faint, shaky sigh. 40,000? The store was so quiet you could hear the hum of the lights. Everyone waited for his response. "Mom," Adrian finally whispered, his voice breaking. Please tell me this isn't true." Vivian's eyes stayed locked on Sienna. "I wish I could." Sienna suddenly broke down, her words tumbling out. "Adrian, I only wanted us to look successful. Everyone at your office has their wives dressed in the best brands. I didn't want you to look small. I thought, if your mom never checked—" "Stop." Adrian's voice was hard now, filled with anger Vivian had never heard before. "Stop, Sienna. I trusted you. And you used my mother." Tears streaked down Sienna's face. She dropped the last of the bags and sank into the chair beside the counter, whispering, "I didn't mean for it to go this far." Vivian handed the phone to one of the guards, her expression cold but collected. "Adrian, come here. You need to see this for yourself." "I'll be there in 20 minutes, he said, his voice low and strained. When the call ended, Sienna looked up, desperate. "Vivian, please. Don't involve the police. Don't ruin me. Adrian will hate you for this. He'll hate you forever." Vivian's lips pressed into a thin line. "No, Sienna. If he hates anyone after today, it won't be me." The guards stood nearby, their presence heavy. The whispers of the crowd grew louder. Sienna sat trembling, makeup smudged, once proud shoulders slumped. Vivian didn't gloat. She didn't shout. She simply stood, hands folded in front of her, waiting for her son to arrive, waiting for the final moment when all lies would crumble. The air in the boutique felt heavier as time passed. Sienna sat in the chair with her arms wrapped tightly around herself, mascara streaks running down her cheeks. Her shopping bags, symbols of her greed, were scattered across the polished floor like evidence of a crime. Vivian stood still, her face stern but calm, waiting for her son to arrive. When Adrian finally rushed into the store, his expression was filled with both confusion and dread. He spotted his wife immediately, hunched over, trembling, and then his eyes found his mother standing tall just a few steps away. "Mom." "Sienna," he breathed, his voice unsteady. Vivian pulled out her phone and showed him the banking app again. "Here. Look. Every charge in the last 2 hours. $40,000, Adrian. All of it on my emergency card." Adrian's jaw tightened as he scrolled through the list of transactions. The designer names blurred together: Gucci, Prada, Chanel, Dior. His hands shook as he turned to Sienna. "Tell me this isn't real," he said, his voice breaking. Sienna reached for him, her words stumbling over themselves. "Adrian, I just wanted us to fit in. At your company dinners, all the wives look perfect, wearing the best. I didn't want you to look small next to them. I thought if your mom never noticed." Adrian pulled his arm back sharply. $40,000, Sienna? You call that not being noticed?" Sienna flinched as if struck. The entire store remained silent, everyone watching, their curiosity mixing with judgment. The manager quietly stepped aside, giving space as the guards lingered nearby. Then one of the guards cleared his throat. "Sir, ma'am, if I may. Since the bank was mentioned, we'll need to confirm some details. Our mall security system records all transactions when fraud is suspected." He pulled out a small tablet and began typing quickly. Vivian and Adrian leaned closer, their eyes fixed on the screen. The guard scrolled through several flagged alerts. "Well, this is bigger than today. Looks like there was a replacement card issued in this name last month." He tapped the screen, showing an electronic form. "Requested online, shipped to this address," he paused. "Apartment 6B, Westwood Heights." Adrian's eyes widened. That was their apartment. Sienna gasped, her face crumbling. "No, wait, I can explain." But the guard wasn't finished. "And here, 2 weeks ago, a cash advance. $12,000 withdrawn in Beverly Hills. Same replacement card. Same account holder name." Vivian's breath caught in her throat. She gripped the counter to steady herself. It wasn't just reckless shopping, it was identity theft. Adrian turned to Sienna, his voice trembling between anger and disbelief. You used my mother's information to open a replacement card? You stole her identity." Sienna's lips quivered. She shook her head violently, but the truth was written across her pale face. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. I just thought, if I could pay it back later, she wouldn't notice. I only wanted us to live better, Adrian. To look better." "To look better?" Adrian snapped, his voice echoing through the store. "You lied to me. You lied to my mother. You dragged us into this mess for handbags and shoes." Tears spilled from Sienna's eyes as she reached for him again, but Adrian stepped back, disgusted. "I defended you so many times. I told my mom you were just misunderstood. But now," his voice cracked, "now I see exactly who you are." The guard glanced at Vivian, lowering his voice. "We'll need to file an official fraud report. This isn't just overspending, it's criminal. Do you want us to call the police, ma'am?" Vivian's heart squeezed. For a moment, she saw the young woman she had once welcomed into her home, laughing at the dinner table, smiling at Adrian like he was her world. But then she looked down at the tablet again, the proof of deliberate theft, and all softness hardened into resolve. "Yes," she said firmly. "Call them." Sienna let out a sharp cry, clinging to Adrian's sleeve. "Adrian, please. Don't let her do this. Tell her to stop. She'll ruin us. She'll ruin me." But Adrian's face was stone. He didn't pull her closer. He didn't defend her. He simply whispered, "You ruined yourself." Within minutes, 2 police officers walked into the store. They spoke calmly with Vivian, reviewed the documents, and then turned to Sienna. One officer's voice was even but firm. "Ma'am, you'll need to come with us. There are serious allegations of fraud here." Sienna collapsed into the chair again, sobbing, begging Adrian with wide, desperate eyes. "Don't let them take me. Please. I did it for us." Adrian couldn't meet her gaze. He turned away, his shoulders shaking, and Vivian quietly placed a hand on his arm. The officers lifted Sienna gently to her feet. Cameras from the crowd followed her as she was led out, her once flawless appearance destroyed, her designer bags abandoned on the floor. Vivian and Adrian stood side by side, silent, as the whispers of strangers filled the store. The paper trail had revealed the truth, and it was worse than either of them had imagined. Outside the store, the afternoon sun looked too bright for what had just happened. The officers guided Sienna to a quiet corner near the security office. The manager followed with a folder of receipts and screenshots. Vivian and Adrian walked behind them in silence. No one spoke until they were seated at a small table where people usually filled out lost and found forms. Today, it was for a fraud report. An officer slid a form toward Vivian. "Ma'am, we'll take your statement and attach the evidence." Vivian nodded. Her hand was steady as she wrote. She listed the card number, the charges, the stores, and the times. She added one last line. "Card was given to family for emergencies only." Sienna's voice shook. "Please. I can return the items. I'll take everything back. I'll pay it little by little." The officer looked at her kindly but firm. "Ma'am, returning items does not erase the crime. It may help with charges, but the report stands." Adrian rubbed his eyes. "Sienna, why?" She stared at the floor. "I was tired of feeling small. Your office parties, the wives, the looks. I wanted to show them we belong. I thought, if I kept it quiet, if I moved money around and covered the payments, you'd never know." "Covered with what?" Adrian asked, voice flat. Sienna didn't answer. Mall security pulled up the footage. On the screen, they watched Sienna, elegant and smiling, hand over Vivian's card again and again. The guard tapped another file. "This is the online request for a replacement card. It came from your apartment's IP address. The email used is here." He turned the tablet. The address was Sienna's. A courier signature appeared next, S. Cole. It glowed like a stamp of truth no one could erase. The officer spoke to Vivian. "We'll log this now, and you can choose to press charges. You can also request a restraining order for financial accounts." "I want both," Vivian said, her voice low and clear. "And I want my accounts frozen today." Sienna pressed her palms together. "Vivian, I am begging you. Don't ruin my life." Vivian's eyes softened for a breath. She remembered the first dinner she had cooked for Sienna, the toast she had made at their wedding, the promise she had believed in. Then she thought of the alerts she had ignored last week, the small lies, the missing receipts. She lifted her chin. "I won't ruin your life, Sienna. You did that yourself. I will only protect mine." The officers finished the paperwork and stepped away to make calls. The manager brought water. For a moment, the small room was quiet enough to hear only the hum of the vent and the faint music from the mall. Adrian spoke to his mother in a voice the child in him remembered. "Mom, I'm sorry. I should have seen it. I wanted us to work so badly that I let it all slide." Vivian touched his sleeve. "You loved her. That's not a crime. But love without boundaries turns into permission. This ends today." She took out her phone, opened her notes, and showed Adrian a list she had prepared days ago. "After those strange alerts last week, I moved the house and savings into a living trust. I changed beneficiaries. I added a clause. Anyone who commits fraud against me is excluded from the estate." Adrian blinked. "You already did this?" Vivian nodded. Quietly. "I hoped I was wrong. I wanted to be wrong." Behind them, Sienna inhaled sharply. "You put everything into a trust?" Vivian turned to her. "You can't touch a cent. Not the house. Not the savings. Not my pension. You could have had a family. You chose labels instead." An officer returned. "Ms. Cole, your bank has frozen the card and flagged the other transactions. They'll start reversals where possible. We'll take Ms. Sienna for processing. She can post bail later. The DA will consider a plea if there's full restitution, a written admission, and community service. A suspended sentence is possible if she cooperates. But this is still a record unless a judge says otherwise." Sienna's shoulders collapsed. A record? She finally looked at Adrian and seemed to see him, not a lifestyle. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I kept thinking we were one big purchase away from being respected. I didn't think about what it cost to your mother, or to you." Adrian's reply was gentle but final. "Respect is not something you buy. It's something you live." He stood. "I'll arrange for a lawyer to speak with you about restitution. After that, we're done." They stepped out of the office together. The mall looked normal again. Kids with pretzels, couples taking photos, a janitor pushing a mop. Only their little world had split open. In the parking lot, the late light painted the cars in gold. Adrian leaned against his sedan and covered his face. Vivian stood with him but didn't crowd him. He needed to learn how to carry his own weight again. After a long silence, he said, "I'm going to stay at your place tonight. Tomorrow I'll pack a bag and ask for time off. I need to think. I need to call a therapist. I need to learn how I missed the signs. Vivian nodded. That's a good plan. Back at Vivian's home, they set 2 cups of tea on the table that had seen birthdays, report cards, and hard winters. Vivian opened her laptop and pulled up her accounts. One by one, she removed Adrian and Sienna from every access point: credit, utilities, insurance, the emergency card. She closed the old numbers and created new ones, stronger ones with 2-step checks. She handed Adrian a simple list. Call the bank. Call the phone carrier. Change passwords. Freeze your credit temporarily. Add alerts. Adrian read the list like instructions for breath. Okay, I can do that. The doorbell rang once, delivery. The manager had sent over the receipt copies they'd signed at the mall. Vivian stacked them in a folder marked record. She slipped the folder into a fireproof box under the sink. The click of the lock sounded like a promise to herself. They ate in quiet, then washed dishes side by side. Small work. Honest work. When the plates were dry, Adrian finally asked, "Do you hate her?" Vivian looked out the window at the dark yard. "No, I hate what she chose. There's a difference. You can't build a life on wanting what shines. You build it brick by brick. Some people never learn that." His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "I'll pay it back. Please tell your mom not to destroy me." Adrian turned the screen face down. "I'll handle the payments with the lawyer." "Mom, you don't need to talk to her again." "I won't," Vivian said. Before bed, Vivian opened her safe and took out the little silver card that had once felt like a lifeline for the young couple. She slid it into an envelope, sealed it, and wrote 3 words across the front: "No more secrets." She placed it in the box with the receipts and closed the lid. The house went quiet. A different kind of quiet. Not the emptiness after loss, but the clean silence after a mess is cleared. In the darkness, Adrian whispered from the guest room, "Thank you for saving me." Vivian, in her room, stared at the ceiling and let a single tear fall. "Save yourself now," she whispered back. Morning would bring lawyers, calls, and hard talks. It would also bring a first step: truth, then repair. The designer bags were gone. The debt would be tracked. The trust would stand. And the lesson would live longer than any brand name: love needs lines and trust needs locks. Greed had written a bill. Today it finally paid.